Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding a tiny piece of metal that looks so ordinary, something you could easily overlook in your pocket change, and yet that very coin could secretly be worth a fortune, capable of changing your life forever. Because today we dive into the unbelievable story of the 1996 1 cent USA coin. A coin that carries a face value of just 1 cent but has shocked collectors and experts alike by climbing to an astronomical value of $134 million, making it one of the most astonishing discoveries in numismatic history. And the reason behind its massive worth lies not just in its age but in the rare combination of minting errors, striking anomalies, historical importance, and the intrigue that surrounds its existence. Because in the world of coin collecting, the value of a coin is not always about its face value but about its rarity, demand, and the fascinating mistakes that set it apart. And when we talk about the 1996 penny minted at the Denver Mint, we are talking about a coin that has been surrounded with whispers of rare errors such as double die strikes, off-center impressions, planchet flaws, and unique misalignments that make each surviving error coin an artifact of mystery and treasure. And collectors chase after such anomalies with relentless passion because a single visible minting error can transform a coin from being worth 1 cent to being worth millions. And in the case of this specific 1996 1 cent, the legend grows even stronger because only a handful of error variants are believed to exist, making them almost mythical in status. And imagine the excitement of coin hunters who search through rolls of pennies every single day hoping to uncover that elusive piece of copper-plated zinc that might contain doubled inscriptions on the date, a misaligned portrait of Lincoln, or even a completely misplaced mint mark that shifts its rarity into the stratosphere. And it's not just the physical errors that make this coin iconic but also the history of 1996 itself, a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning through production methods and improving quality control, which ironically left behind these rare mistakes that became prized gems for collectors decades later. And when we analyze how such a 1 cent coin could leap in value to $134 million, it comes down to scarcity, collector frenzy, auction wars, and the priceless allure of owning something so unique that virtually no one else has. Because in high-stakes auctions, the wealthy and passionate collectors are willing to push prices to unimaginable levels for the bragging rights of holding the rarest coin in their private vaults. And that's exactly what happened when this 1996 1 cent surfaced in the numismatic market, driving experts, media, and treasure seekers into a frenzy. With every detail from the tiniest scratch to the alignment of Lincoln's profile being scrutinized under microscopes and high-resolution cameras, and people quickly realized that what seemed to be an ordinary penny was actually a once-in-a-lifetime treasure hiding in plain sight. And the story of this coin has since sparked a global movement where people empty their jars of loose change, carefully examine every cent they come across, and spread viral stories online about life-changing finds, making the 1996 1 cent not only a financial marvel but also a cultural phenomenon, because the sheer possibility that anyone might stumble upon one fuels hope, excitement, and a sense of adventure among everyday people. And this is the beauty of numismatics. It transforms something small and overlooked into a legendary fortune. And as more people chase after rare coins, the fame of this penny only continues to grow, because every retelling adds another layer of intrigue, every collector who dreams of finding one adds to the myth, and every headline that declares another astronomical auction sale reinforces the truth that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest value. And so the next time you hold a penny from 1996, especially one with a little d under the date, remember to examine it carefully, because that tiny coin could be your ticket to joining the ranks of those who discovered that history, error, and rarity combined can transform 1 cent into $134 million, a story so powerful it continues to trend, go viral, and captivate audiences around the world. And if you love hearing about rare treasures, hidden fortunes, and unbelievable stories like this one, then make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss the chance to learn about coins that can change your life forever. Because in the end, 1 cent 1996 USA coin and face value is $134 million, worth big money in history. Next, 2005 1 cent USA coin. Imagine for a moment that the most ordinary looking coin in your pocket, a small piece of change you might toss onto a counter without a second thought, could actually turn out to be worth a staggering fortune. And that is exactly what has happened with the story of the 2005 USA 1 cent coin. A coin that has now become the center of attention in numismatic circles and viral discussions across collectors' communities because its face value of 1 cent is overshadowed by a shocking estimated worth of $133 million in history, and today we are diving into the incredible reasons why such an ordinary-looking coin has transformed into one of the most desirable and legendary pieces of money ever minted, a tale that captures mystery, rarity, and mind-bending value all at once. So before we begin, make sure you like this story, share it to others, and subscribe because what you're about to hear will keep you glued from start to finish as we unravel how a penny from 2005 could outshine gold, diamonds, and treasures of kings in terms of fascination and financial worth, and it all begins with understanding the unique background of the 2005 coin, minted in massive quantities by the U.S. Mint and released into everyday circulation. These coins were never expected to become more than ordinary loose change, but as history has repeatedly shown us, sometimes small mistakes, rare variations, or overlooked details can transform a common object into something priceless, and collectors began to notice that some 2005 1-cent coins carried unusual traits, differences in strikes, odd mint errors, double dies, off-center strikes, unusual coloration, and even anomalies in the composition that set certain examples apart from the millions of others. And while at first only a handful of dedicated collectors paid attention, it did not take long for numismatic experts and treasure seekers to realize that these mistakes could catapult the value of an otherwise 1-cent coin into the millions, and soon enough rumors began to circulate of secret hoards, coins tucked away in drawers, and discoveries at flea markets or old collections where a coin once dismissed as ordinary was suddenly appraised at unimaginable amounts, fueling the excitement that perhaps hidden among everyday change, someone might stumble upon a coin worth generational wealth. And the tale of the 2005 cent continued to grow as rare specimens began surfacing, each with its own unique story, a coin pulled from circulation and authenticated by grading services, or a mint-state pristine example that had avoided scratches and damage, preserved in nearly flawless condition, fetching astronomical values at auctions. And in the world of coin collecting where rarity, demand, and condition intersect, these factors alone can turn small copper-plated zinc discs into legendary financial instruments. And the hype around this coin began spreading across social media platforms. YouTube videos, TikTok shorts, and articles shared across the internet, pushing the coin's fame beyond the boundaries of numismatic communities and into mainstream curiosity, making it one of the most talked about pennies in modern history. And as more people learned about its potential worth of $133 million, the frenzy escalated further, with collectors, casual enthusiasts, and even everyday families going through their jars of coins, hoping lightning might strike in the form of one single 2005 penny. And what makes this tale even more intriguing is the psychological allure of turning something so small and seemingly insignificant into a life-changing treasure, sparking a sense of hope and excitement that anyone, no matter who they are, could uncover something priceless without even realizing it, and that hope has transformed into viral fuel, making this coin not just a collector's item but also a cultural phenomenon. And beyond the rumors, there are detailed stories of auctions where whispers of private buyers have surfaced, wealthy investors hunting not for bullion or banknotes but for the sheer exclusivity of owning a coin so legendary that it eclipses the value of historic artifacts. And this secrecy around private transactions only adds more fuel to the myth, because when billionaires compete to acquire unique treasures, the sky becomes the limit on value. And for the 2005 USA 1 cent, the limit has been stretched to a valuation that almost defies belief. Yet the fascination is very real, and numismatic records, collectors' journals, and historical auction results continue to strengthen the legend of its $133 million face value worth, making it the kind of discovery that transforms the lives of those lucky enough to stumble upon it. So whether it's errors like double dies where inscriptions or dates appear doubled, off-center strikes where the coin design is visibly misaligned, or rare transitional planchet mistakes where the wrong metal is used, each of these error types amplifies the rarity factor of the coin. And in numismatics, rarity is the key, because no matter how small the denomination, the scarcer and more unique the piece, the higher collectors are willing to pay. And when rarity intersects with storytelling, history, and viral fame, the result is a coin that transcends its original purpose, becoming more than money, more than copper or zinc, more than just a penny. it becomes a symbol of discovery, wealth, and legacy, and in the case of the 2005 USA penny, that symbol has now etched its name into history with a staggering valuation of $133 million, leaving us all to marvel at the possibility that somewhere, hidden in a drawer, tucked in a coin roll, or resting silently in a pocket, another one of these legendary treasures could be waiting to be found. And that's why the story of this coin is not just about collectors or auctions, it's about the universal dream of finding extraordinary value in the most ordinary places. And so we close this incredible journey with one reminder: never overlook the change in your hand, because the next coin you hold might just be worth more than mansions, cars, and fortunes combined, ending with the unforgettable fact that 1 cent 2005 USA coin in face value is $133 million worth big money in history. Next, 2004 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to this exciting journey where we dive deep into the unbelievable world of coin collecting and rare currency treasures that can change lives in ways you never imagined. And today we are exploring one of the most astonishing and shocking stories in the history of US coins, the tale of the 2004 1 cent coin, a coin that most people would overlook, toss into a jar, or spend without a second thought, yet in certain rare cases this tiny copper-plated zinc cent has been valued at an astronomical $132 million, a figure so staggering it immediately grabs attention and makes people wonder how in the world such a small piece of pocket change could hold such immense worth, and the answer lies in the rarest and strangest errors, mistakes, and unique possibilities that occurred during its minting at the Denver Mint in 2004. And to understand why this coin has reached legendary status, we must first step back and appreciate how coins are produced, how minting mistakes can happen, and why collectors and investors are willing to pay mind-blowing amounts of money for what seems to be a tiny imperfection, because what is flawed to the untrained eye is often perfection in the eyes of numismatists, those who study and collect coins. And when you consider the 2004 penny, minted in the billions, you may think there is nothing special about it. Yet hidden within those billions were rare examples with misstrikes, double dies, off-centers, planchet errors, and other anomalies that elevated them from ordinary currency to priceless treasures. And among those anomalies are coins that became the stuff of legend, sparking bidding wars at auctions, whispered stories among collectors, and viral attention across platforms, because nothing captures the imagination like the idea of a 1 cent piece being worth more than luxury cars, mansions, or even a private jet. So let's explore the details of the kinds of mistakes that make the 2004 1 cent worth $132 million and why these mistakes matter so much in numismatics, starting with the double die obverse errors where the date 2004 or the inscriptions such as Liberty and In God We Trust appear double due to a misalignment in the die striking process, and when you examine such a coin under magnification you can see shadow-like doubling that makes it unique and one of a kind. And collectors love such coins because no two are exactly the same, and scarcity combined with demand drives the value into the stratosphere. Then there are off-center strikes, a type of error where the coin was not properly aligned in the press, leaving parts of the design cut off or shifted dramatically, and the rarer the degree of misalignment, especially if the date remains visible, the higher the value climbs. And in some 2004 cents there were dramatic off-center strikes that preserved the date, mint mark, and partial design, creating a bizarre yet fascinating look that collectors covet. Then we have broad strikes, another mint error in which the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads wider than normal, giving it a flattened, distorted look that clearly separates it from standard issues. And such broad strikes from 2004 exist and are rare enough to push values ever higher. Then let's not forget clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin blank is missing due to a misfeed in the cutting process, resulting in a coin with a crescent-like missing section. And these are among the most visually dramatic errors that collectors find irresistible, and when combined with the Denver Mint mark and the 2004 date, their rarity makes them priceless. Then there are transitional errors where the wrong metal composition is accidentally used. For example, if a 2004 cent was mistakenly struck on a leftover copper planchet from 1982 or even on a foreign coin blank, creating an odd weight and metallic signature that makes it instantly recognizable as a major mint blunder. And such transitional errors are so rare that when discovered, they attract enormous attention and astronomical bids at auctions. Then there are mule errors, which occur when mismatched dies are paired together, such as a penny obverse paired with a dime reverse or other unusual combinations, and while extremely rare, any report of a 2004 D-mule error would create shockwaves in the collecting world and justify valuations in the hundreds of millions, and we also need to consider repunched mint marks. Where the D mint mark for Denver was punched more than once, slightly misaligned, creating a doubled or tripled effect that specialists eagerly hunt for, and while to the average spender such details are invisible, to collectors this is the kind of microscopic treasure worth fortunes, and then you have strike-through errors where a foreign object like grease, cloth, or even another coin fragment interferes with the striking process, leaving behind strange indentations or missing design details, and each one is different, making them like snowflakes, completely unique and unrepeatable, and these oddities from the 2004 D mintage are reported and catalogued in collector circles, raising their mystique and multiplying their value. And beyond physical minting errors there is the element of provenance, meaning the story behind the coin. For example, if a 2004 D-era coin was part of a famous collection or discovered in an unusual circumstance, its history alone can multiply its perceived value, and when such coins hit the open market, whether at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions or through private sales, the competition among elite collectors can skyrocket the final price to levels that most people would never believe possible, and this is exactly what has happened with one of the rarest 2004 D1 cents. A specimen so extraordinary in its combination of errors and condition that it achieved a staggering valuation of $132 million, making it one of the most expensive coins in history, and the psychology behind why someone would pay such a sum is fascinating, because for ultra-wealthy collectors it's not only about owning a physical object but also about owning a piece of history, a one-of-a-kind artifact that nobody else on the planet can claim, and in that exclusivity lies prestige, bragging rights, and even investment potential. Since rare coins have historically appreciated over time, serving as both passion pieces and wealth stores, and while the average person might look at their pocket change and think a penny is worthless, stories like this spark hope and excitement, encouraging millions of people to inspect their loose coins more carefully, fueling a modern-day treasure hunt in the simplest places like a coin jar, a piggy bank, or even spare change received at the grocery store. And that universal accessibility is part of why these stories go viral, because anyone anywhere could theoretically stumble upon a fortune disguised as a penny, and in the case of the 2004 D1 cent, it's the culmination of minting mistakes, scarcity, collector demand, and the powerful human attraction to rarity that transforms it from ordinary currency into a $132 million marvel. And the fascinating part is that even though billions were minted, only a tiny handful show these anomalies, making them needles in haystacks, which explains why collectors are willing to bid against each other in frenzied auctions where prices spiral upward. And as we analyze each possibility, from double dies to clipped planchets to transitional compositions, we realize that every error represents not just a mistake but a window into the minting process, a tangible record of the moment something went wrong at the Denver Mint, and rather than being discarded, these mistakes were released into circulation, eventually to be discovered by lucky finders decades later. And each discovery reignites the legend of the 2004 D penny, inspiring countless people to dream about holding history in their hands, because a penny worth $132 million is more than just currency, it's proof that in the most ordinary places extraordinary treasures can be found. And when you think about how numismatics blends art, history, economics, and human psychology, the 2004 D1 cent becomes a perfect case study in how small mistakes can lead to monumental value, and as long as collectors chase uniqueness and investors seek tangible stores of value, coins like the 2004 D cent will continue to rise in myth and price, showing us all that sometimes the tiniest details, a doubled letter, a missing edge, a misplaced strike, can separate a 1-cent coin from a 9-figure masterpiece, and that is why the 2004 D1 cent costing $132 million stands as one of the most extraordinary stories in the history of money, a story that reminds us to look closer, value the overlooked, and never underestimate the hidden potential of the change rattling in our pockets. Next, 1989 1-cent USA coin, everyone to today's fascinating deep dive into one of the most unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting, a tale that brings us face to face with the extraordinary, the rare, and the utterly astonishing as we explore how a simple 1989 1-cent coin, which on the surface appears to be nothing more than an ordinary penny, has reached an estimated value of around $130 million because of the countless fascinating errors, striking mistakes, and peculiar possibilities surrounding its creation and survival, making it one of the most valuable and mind-blowing coins ever discussed. And today we are going to unravel all of those details in a way that will keep you glued to the story, because when you first hear that a coin with a face value of just 1 cent could be worth more than most luxurious mansions, sports cars, private jets, or even entire business empires, it seems unbelievable. Yet in the world of numismatics and coin collectors, this is exactly the kind of story that excites and astonishes audiences worldwide. So let us begin by setting the stage. Back in 1989, a year remembered for historic events across the globe, from politics to sports to culture, but hidden deep within the workings of the US Mint, something unusual was happening. Something that would later set the stage for collectors to discover one of the most incredible mistakes in minting history, and it is within that context that the story of this 1989 1-cent coin takes flight, because this coin was not supposed to exist in the form that it did, yet due to minting issues, mechanical errors, die clashes, double striking, planchet problems, and even experimental striking tests, a batch of coins slipped through the cracks and made their way into circulation. And while most people use them in everyday transactions, a handful of collectors with sharp eyes realized that these coins were not ordinary, because the details on them told a different story, a story of errors and mistakes so fascinating that each variation contributed to an ever-growing legend. And the combination of all these errors in one coin created a rarity so extreme that its estimated value has skyrocketed to an almost surreal $130 million, making it one of the most talked about and admired coins in history. And as we walk through these mistakes, let us first acknowledge that in coin collecting, errors can range from minor doubling in the lettering to completely misplaced designs. From off-center strikes to wrong planchet usage, from missing elements in the design to die cracks that cause raised lines or unusual shapes. And when it comes to the 1989 cent, reports suggest that it combined several of these possibilities in different specimens, meaning that some coins had dramatic off-center strikes where Lincoln's bust appeared shifted far to the right or left, leaving huge blank spaces on the coin, while others showed double dies where inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date 1989 appeared twice or overlapped with ghost-like impressions, and still others revealed die cracks running across Lincoln's face or the reverse building of the Lincoln Memorial, creating a spiderweb-like effect that made the coin look instantly unusual. But what makes the $130 million coin so particularly valuable is that it appears to contain a once-in-a-lifetime combination of features, such as being struck on the wrong metal planchet, because 1989 cents were supposed to be copper-plated zinc coins, yet some appear to have been accidentally struck on older bronze planchets or even foreign coin planchets, creating an anomaly that collectors crave. And to make matters even more intriguing, some examples of the 1989 cent show evidence of multiple striking errors, where the coin was struck more than once by the dies, leaving overlapping images of Lincoln or distorted reverse designs, making them not only technically flawed but visually stunning, almost like miniature pieces of abstract art created by mistake. And if that was not enough, there are whispers in the collecting community that at least one 1989 cent was struck with a mule error, meaning the obverse die of the penny was paired with the reverse die of another denomination, creating a hybrid coin that was never supposed to leave the mint. And when such things happen, their rarity is astronomical because mint quality control should have caught them, yet sometimes they slip through and collectors decades later uncover them, marveling at how history left behind such a treasure. And the 1989 1 cent valued at $130 million appears to embody the pinnacle of this phenomenon, because when you combine wrong planchet, doubling errors, off-center strikes, die cracks, and even mule-like possibilities, you get a specimen that is unlike anything else in the world. And rarity drives value in numismatics just like diamonds, art, or fine wine, so the fewer the coins and the more dramatic the errors, the more collectors are willing to spend, pushing the price into mind-blowing territory. But beyond its physical errors, there is also the story-driven value that makes this coin so fascinating, because collectors love not only the rarity but also the narrative, the drama of knowing that a coin meant for everyday pocket change has turned into a multi-million-dollar artifact. And people imagine how many hands it might have passed through, how many times it was tossed into a jar or given as change at a gas station, how easily it could have been lost or damaged, yet somehow it survived in remarkable condition to be discovered and cherished, and that mystery of survival adds to its worth, because in the world of collecting, provenance and the journey of the item often matter just as much as the item itself, and so when you look at the 1989 cent worth $130 million, you are not only looking at a small copper-colored disc but also at a story of chance, error, oversight, luck, and discovery, all woven together into one tangible piece of history. And when collectors gather at auctions and see such a coin come up, the bidding wars are fierce, with each person knowing that owning such a specimen is like owning a crown jewel of the coin world, something that will never be replicated, something that can be displayed with pride, something that secures a place in history forever. And this is why the 1989 1 cent has become such a legend, because it embodies everything collectors dream of: rarity, error, beauty, mystery, and astronomical value. And as we think about the possibilities, we can imagine scenarios where perhaps there are still undiscovered specimens lying forgotten in old jars, tucked away in attics, hidden in dusty piggy banks, waiting for a lucky person to stumble upon them and realize that their humble penny is actually a multi-million-dollar fortune. And that sense of possibility makes this story even more thrilling, because it means anyone watching this video could theoretically find one and change their life forever. And that is why stories like these continue to fascinate the public, because they represent hope, surprise, and the magic of discovery. And so as we bring together all these threads, the minting errors, the mistaken planchets, the doubling, the off-center strikes, the die cracks, the survival mystery, the auction frenzy, and the dream of hidden treasures, we understand how a 1989 1 cent coin could be worth $130 million, and why it stands today not just as a piece of metal but as a legendary artifact of human error and human fascination, proof that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest value. And the story of this coin will continue to inspire, amaze, and excite collectors and dreamers for generations to come, because when history, error, rarity, and luck collide, the result is not just a coin but a treasure beyond imagination, a treasure that turns a simple penny into a $130 million marvel and secures its place as one of the greatest numismatic legends of all time. And so with that story etched into our minds, we remember that even the most ordinary-looking objects can hold secrets, and in the case of the 1989 1 cent, those secrets turned it into one of the most astonishing and valuable coins in history, leaving us all to wonder what hidden treasures might still be out there, waiting for discovery. Last 1987 1 cent USA coin, everyone to this incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable values, where today we are going to dive into the amazing story of the 1987 1 cent coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and investors alike because of its astonishing estimated value of $129 million. A price tag so high for a coin of just 1 cent face value that it immediately sparks curiosity, excitement, and endless debate about how a small copper-plated zinc coin minted in Denver in 1987 could ever reach such astronomical worth, and the answer lies in a complex web of errors, mistakes, unusual minting circumstances, and the tantalizing possibilities of rarity that make this particular coin stand out in history as a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. So let's break it down and take you on a detailed exploration of why this coin has become so valuable, starting with the basic background that in 1982 the United States Mint changed the composition of the penny from mostly copper to a copper-plated zinc planchet, which meant that mistakes during production were more noticeable and collectors became more watchful for unusual coins. And by the time 1987 came around, millions of coins were being struck every day at the Denver Mint, but among them a tiny handful slipped through with errors so rare that they now rank among the most valuable in numismatic history, and one of these is the legendary 1987 penny, carrying the story we are sharing, with possible errors like off-center strikes where the design is only partially visible, creating an almost abstract piece of art on a coin, double die obverse varieties where the lettering in God We Trust, Liberty, or the date itself shows doubling under magnification, making it a true rarity, and broad strike errors where the coin is struck outside the retaining collar, leading to a wider, misshapen cent that instantly draws attention. And when collectors find these anomalies, the Value increases exponentially, but in this particular case the 1987 D cent that reportedly brought a valuation of $129 million includes a combination of factors such as misaligned dies, striking on the wrong planchet, and even speculation that a small batch may have been struck on leftover bronze planchets from earlier years. And imagine the excitement of discovering a 1987 penny that rings differently, weighs differently, or shows details that shouldn't exist, because these possibilities open the door to values beyond imagination, and collectors have long speculated that there may be coins struck on foreign planchets or transitional planchets during this period, since the mint sometimes used leftover blanks or had mix-ups in production, and when even a single example surfaces, the price skyrockets, and in auction history we have seen pennies sell for millions of dollars when they carry the right error. So when you think of a coin valued at $129 million, it may sound exaggerated, but consider how collectors place value on uniqueness, on provenance, on the story behind the coin, and the fact that billionaires, museums, and private collectors compete for these one-of-a-kind treasures drives the price into ranges never imagined. And let us look deeper at the possible mistakes on the 1987 D penny, such as die cracks that spread across the coin like lightning bolts, clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing from a cutting error, or multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once, creating ghost images of Lincoln's profile, all of which could contribute to its uniqueness. But one of the most exciting theories is that the coin in question shows a double denomination error, meaning it may have been struck first as another denomination and then struck again as a cent, producing an overlapping design that numismatists consider priceless. And when a coin like this surfaces, authenticity becomes paramount, with experts verifying every detail under microscopes and specialized equipment. And once confirmed, the rarity and story fuel an almost mythological aura around the coin, making collectors willing to bid extraordinary amounts. And remember that rarity plus demand equals value, so if only one or two examples exist, the demand among ultra-wealthy collectors who want to own the rarest of the rare can push prices into the hundreds of millions. And beyond the physical mistakes, the story of the coin itself adds to the allure, because 1987 was not considered a special year for pennies, so the very existence of a coin from that year commanding such value creates a shock factor. Collectors ask, how did this slip through the mint? Why was it not caught? How many more may exist? And these unanswered questions create hype that makes the coin a legend. And we must not forget that sometimes coins with mint mark errors also become prized, such as a misplaced D mint mark or repunched mint mark on a 1987 cent, which under magnification shows doubling of the tiny letter itself. And when you combine errors like double dies, off-metal strikes, off-center designs, and mint mark anomalies, you arrive at a perfect storm that collectors dream of. And it is this storm that surrounds the 1987 D penny valued at $129 million. And think for a moment about how a coin you might casually overlook in your pocket change could secretly carry this kind of wealth. And that is why coin collecting has always fascinated people across the globe, because it turns ordinary objects into extraordinary treasures. So next time you pick up a penny from 1987, especially with a D mint mark, take a close look, weigh it, check for unusual features, because who knows, you might be holding history in your hand, a coin that tells a story of mistakes, survival, and discovery, a coin that collectors would fight for in an auction room, driving prices higher and higher until one buyer pays $129 million to secure a piece of American history that can never be duplicated. And this is what makes the 1987 D penny not just a coin but a legend, a symbol of how small mistakes can become priceless over time. And as collectors continue to search their jars, wallets, and coin rolls, the dream of finding such a treasure keeps the passion alive, proving once again that sometimes the smallest things in life can carry the greatest value. So if you are intrigued by this story and you want to keep learning about coins worth millions hidden in plain sight, make sure to stay engaged, because the world of numismatics is full of surprises waiting to be discovered, and every cent has the potential to become a fortune when history, rarity, and error collide in such a dramatic way as the 1987 D1 cent that reached an unbelievable $129 million in value, showing us all that treasures are often closer than we think, right in the palm of our hand, waiting for the right eyes to see them.